It's amazing how silence can fill a home. It isn't always loud arguments or slammed doors that reveal something is wrong. Sometimes, it's the absence of laughter, of conversation, of the little moments that once made everything feel alive. That's how I first realized something was different with my son, Daniel. He was 15 at the time, and until recently, he had been full of energy, always the first one to crack a joke at the dinner table, the one who would talk my ear off about basketball or the latest video game he was obsessed with. But then, slowly, that brightness began to dim. At first, I told myself it was just teenage mood swings. Everyone always said boys his age pulled away, became more private, and spent more time in their rooms. I wanted to believe that was all it was, but in my heart, I felt something deeper. It began one evening when I noticed him sitting on the couch, staring blankly at the TV without really watching. His shoulders were slouched, his face pale with tired eyes. When I asked how school was, he just shrugged. Fine. That was it. No details, no funny stories, no complaints about homework or teachers. Just fine. And that word carried more weight than I wanted to admit. Over the next few weeks, his grades started slipping. I got emails from teachers saying he wasn't turning in assignments, that he seemed distracted in class. I confronted him about it, but he brushed me off with a mumbled excuse. It was like he was retreating further into a shell each day. As a mother, my instinct was to push, to demand answers, but something told me to pause. Pushing too hard might make him close off completely. One night, I walked past his room and saw him sitting on his bed, staring at the floor. Books were scattered around him, untouched. I wanted to walk in, to sit beside him, but I hesitated. What if he didn't want me there? What if I made things worse? That hesitation burned in me because every part of me wanted to fix whatever was breaking inside him. Instead, I went downstairs, made 2 mugs of hot cocoa, and knocked gently on his door. Hey, mind if I come in? I asked softly. He didn't answer right away, but after a pause, I heard a quiet, yeah. I stepped inside and handed him the cocoa. Thought you could use this. You always loved it when you were younger. That got a small smile out of him, but it didn't reach his eyes. We sat there in silence for a while, sipping our cocoa. I wanted him to know he didn't have to talk right away, that I wasn't going to force him. Eventually, I placed my hand gently on his shoulder and said, Daniel, I don't know what you're going through, but I can see you're hurting. And you don't have to do it alone. I'm here, no matter what. His lip trembled, and before I knew it, tears filled his eyes. My heart broke as he whispered, Mom, I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel empty. Like I can't keep up, like I'm failing at everything. I pulled him into my arms, holding him as tightly as I could while he cried into my shoulder. I whispered again and again, You're not failing, sweetheart. You're not alone. We're going to get through this together. That night changed everything. It was the first time he opened up, and though the words were few, they were enough. They showed me that he had been struggling silently, carrying a weight far heavier than I'd realized. The next day, I reached out to his school counselor. I explained what was happening and we set up a plan to support him. They suggested therapy, and at first, Daniel resisted. I don't need a stranger knowing my business, he grumbled. But I told him therapy wasn't about judgment. It was about having someone safe to talk to, someone who could give him tools to handle what he was feeling. Slowly, he agreed to give it a try. The sessions weren't easy for him. Sometimes he came home quiet, clearly drained. Other times he seemed lighter, like he'd let out something that had been bottled up for too long. I made sure our home became a place where he could breathe, where he didn't feel pressured to be perfect. I encouraged small victories, like finishing an assignment or practicing basketball in the driveway, and I praised every step he took. One afternoon, I watched him outside bouncing a basketball again. It was the first time in months he had picked it up willingly. He wasn't laughing like he used to, but there was a flicker of joy in his eyes, and it gave me hope. I cheered from the porch, clapping my hands, and he looked up at me with the faintest smile before shooting the ball. Over time, Daniel's light began to return. He still had his struggles, but he wasn't facing them alone anymore. We had long talks, sometimes late at night, where he admitted the pressure he felt to succeed, the comparisons he made with others, and the fear of disappointing me. I told him the truth, that he never had to be perfect for me to love him. My pride in him wasn't based on grades, trophies, or achievements. It was based on his heart, his resilience, and the simple fact that he was my son. The journey wasn't quick, and it wasn't always smooth. There were setbacks and tough days, but each one was a reminder of the strength we were building together. I learned to listen more and lecture less, to be present rather than always trying to fix. And Daniel learned that his silence didn't have to be a prison. He had a voice, and it deserved to be heard. Months later, we sat at the dinner table laughing again, the kind of laughter that fills every corner of a home. It felt like light had finally returned to the spaces that had been dim for so long. Daniel looked at me and said, "Thanks for not giving up on me, Mom." Tears filled my eyes, and I reached across the table to squeeze his hand. "Never," I said. "I'll never give up on you. Because that's what love does. It listens when the world is silent, it holds on when everything feels heavy, and it fights until the light breaks through." My son had been struggling silently, but together, we found our way back. And that changed everything.